Okay, and share PowerPoint. Okay, can you guys see my PowerPoint? Great. All right. So yeah, it's just three of us for now. I hope a couple more people drop in, but Scott, feel free. Luann and I have known each other for about 8 years. That's why we're so chit-chatty. But we would like to get to know you as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to just interrupt or, do the little hand raising thing. And there'll be a couple points where I stop and ask you guys for feedback. You can also use the chat if you want, but it's hard for me to see the chat while I'm presenting. So just feel free to unmic and speak up. So thank you for coming. This is the first of 4 sessions that I'm doing between this evening and the Thursday just before the Mighty Moraine Man, which is the 14th of May. So there's 4 weeks between now and then. And I thought it was a great opportunity to put together some information for really any triathlete, but people who are new to this race or new to triathlons in general probably have a lot of questions, and I'm hoping that I can address a lot of them through these webinars. Because the race is in that immediately after the 4th week, I didn't want to wait too long before talking about some of the race, the location specific things like training for the hills and training for the open water swim. However, because this was late notice and I just announced it last evening, I wasn't sure how many people would show up. So I wanted to spend tonight talk about mindset, which is really very important. And it's something that needs to be practiced just as diligently as all the other skills. So I put this presentation together a year or two ago, and I never got a chance to deliver it. And I thought, well, this is perfect because I think that what's in here is really valuable. And it turns out that it's based on a lot of principles of psychology that have been studied and published and have names, but I just know it as training principles that I've either learned through myself or learned from another coach or learned from some of my athletes. The main 3 pillars, mindset, your skill set, and your fitness. So we're going to talk about the other 2 in the upcoming weeks. Tonight is primarily about mindset. So this is put together for the Mighty Moraine Man multi-sport event. Scott, you're registered. Luann, you aren't. But would either of you be willing to just explain why you're here tonight? What made you decide to hop in on the webinar? Go
Yeah.
ahead, Scott.
Okay. Yeah. I've done a triathlon before, but it's been probably 10 years, so just a little rusty, and just wanted to familiarize myself with this race.
Okay. What made you decide to sign up for this particular race?
Convenience. The location's pretty convenient. Time of year worked out with my schedule. So, yep.
Yeah, good. Which race did you sign up for, Scott?
The sprint.
Okay, so that's the Sunday race.
Yep.
And what was the previous race you did? Was that also a sprint?
I did a sprint and an Olympic,
Hmm.
and I'm doing an Olympic about 3 weeks after this one.
Okay,
So,
that's great. That's good timing.
yeah.
Do the sprint to get some of the rest out, and then
Right.
that makes it a lot easier on your next race. You just smooth out all those little things that you tend to
Yep.
forget. Is there anything specific for this evening, Scott, knowing that tonight's primarily about mindset? The other 3 weeks will be about more of this race location specific skills. Is there anything specific that you want me to be sure to touch on this evening, or do you just want to hear what I have to say?
Yeah, I think I'll just be I'm an observer.
Okay.
All
I
right.
do have a couple more spots where I'm going to ask questions, but thank you for sharing that.
Sure. Thanks.
All right. And Luann, you're not even registered for this race, so why the heck are you here?
That is such a good question. My last race was a race that Suzanne coached me through, and it was a 70.3, and I just need motivation to get out there and sign up for another race. I have done races for 40 years, I guess. And I do one every time I change age categories, and I got another age category coming up here, not too far down the road. So, yeah, so
Great.
I just need a shot in the arm, Suzanne.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I hope you find some things tonight that are motivating. I feel like I remember your race was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Yeah, and I think you said that you were going to skip a year and then pick something for this year. Maybe that was because of the age group
That
change.
sounds good. That sounds like something I'd say.
All right. So let's get you signed up for something. All right. I do have pictures of the race itself throughout the presentation. So even though it's not specifically about um, the course and so forth, that's actually what this slide is all about. Um, when people think about signing up for a race, there are usually some anxieties or some uncertainties about the race. This race in particular, and I'll talk about it a little bit for the benefit of anyone who watches the recording later. Hi, Joella, how are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I just got home from practice. So,
No problem. Thanks for hopping on. You might be able to answer some questions. I just did an introduction. Tonight is going to be primarily about mindset. I do have some pictures of the course. The weeks 2, 3, and 4, I'm going to spend much more time talking about the specifics of moraine in particular. So
okay.
there'll be some crossover.
Okay,
But
sounds good. I do have to make dinner, so I'm just gonna kind of turn my video off and listen. If I can answer any questions, I will.
okay, great. Not a problem. Joelle is the race director, so I'm happy she was able to join us tonight. So these are the kind of questions that people ask when they sign up for a race in general. And this race in particular, it's a very hilly course location. It's in a park. It's a state park. It is open to traffic, but it's done early in the morning, so there's not very many people in the park. There are safety considerations already taken into consideration with turnarounds marked. The course is marked with the orange cone in the middle of the road so that traffic will stay on their correct side and not cross over. There are some tricky parts on the bike course. There's one hill in particular where there's sort of a turn and a downhill. And early in the morning when the race is happening, sometimes it's still wet from overnight dew or rain. People have some anxiety about swimming in the lake. It's an open water swim and it's in May. So it tends to be pretty cold unless we have a long stretch, a week and a half or more of very, very warm weather. Even at night, the lake is going to remain cold. So that is a topic to consider as well. And I'll talk about that more next week. And then just the hills itself, should I be changing my training because of this particular course? I'll talk about that in weeks 2 and 3, but I just wanted to bring up these questions because these are the kinds of things that start to get people, some people get excited about it, some people get a little anxious about it, and you may be somewhere in between. The mindset is going to help you figure out where to place those anxieties so that even if you don't know the exact answer to the question right now, you'll sort of know how to process your emotions about it. And then when you find an answer or when you get an idea or when you look at a plan or talk to a coach, you can just implement those things right away without worrying about whether you're doing it right or not. Does that make sense? Okay. I think I saw the name Amy there, and now it's Samsung. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to interrupt, unmic, ask questions if you like, turn on your camera if you want. It's entirely up to you. So a lot of people want to know, what do I need to do to train? This, by the way, is a picture of the lake on race morning. You can see the fog there. You can see how beautiful it is. There's a big beach, nice hilly overlook for the start for your friends and family to watch, and you can watch the races before or after you. The training plan, I think, is the least important part of this whole journey. And that sounds a little bit counterintuitive to some people, but have you ever had the experience of, planning is fun, shopping for a home redecoration is fun, looking for restaurants to go to or activities to do on a trip is fun. That's all planning, but planning isn't doing. And I think a lot of people get caught up in wanting to have the right plan or the perfect plan. And since they're not necessarily familiar with what the course needs are, is this plan going to work for me? And you end up spending a lot of time doing the plan and not doing the training instead. You can prepare for most triathlons with just about any plan. Not saying that the plan is not important or that there are not plans that are better than others, but the most important parts of training are consistency, avoiding injury, and having the right mindset, being of the right attitude so that at every step of the way, even if you feel like you're not making progress, you don't let that derail you and you can keep moving forward. So even what someone might consider a bad plan, If you're doing it consistently, you're going to perform much better than if you have the perfect plan and don't execute it well. So most people who buy plans never use them, and I sort of discussed some of the whys. Do you guys have any other examples like that? Have you ever planned something and never followed through? Nobody? You can think about it. The corollary to that is, can you think of a time when you made a plan and you did follow through? And what was it about that particular plan or that event or that vacation that made it easier for you to follow through, as opposed to other times when you wanted to do something, had a plan, and it never happened? We want to take some of those strategies that'll make it easy, bring that into training, even if you're not certain about all the details. This photo here is Dustin Wheeler. He is a longtime Pittsburgh cyclist and triathlete. He was the president, I think he was the president. He may have been a treasurer of the Pittsburgh Triathlon Club for a while. And this is him on the bike course. So you can see how lush and beautiful and green it is. The hill behind him, it looks like the road is wet. So these are common conditions. It usually does get warmer later in the day and the road dries up and the sun comes out most of the time. But for the morning races, it can be just like this. So another thing that happens with plans is that if you have the whole thing laid out in front of you, you start looking ahead, you start looking at the second Tuesday of next month, and you see the training set that's on there, and it's kind of scary. Maybe it's more than you've done before, or maybe you recognize that workout as one that you have done in the past and you didn't like it. I've got one athlete who, as much as I try to give her the swim set of 10 by 200s on a send-off, she never does it. I think she's done it once in the 10 years we've worked together, because just looking at that makes her cringe inside. And it's not that she can't do it. She could easily swim 2,000 yards straight. She could swim 20 by 100. She just doesn't like the look of that set. I did get her to do it once last year. So you end up projecting forward into things that you don't know about. Your brain is trying to always keep you and your body safe. Your brain is geared for survival. Back in the times of dinosaurs and saber-toothed tigers, I don't know, were humans around with dinosaurs? I don't think so. But in the past, before modern society and modern things that kill us like heart disease and strokes, there would be dangerous things, like real dangerous things in the wild that would kill us. And our brain is designed to constantly be on the lookout for those. It's why noises startle you. It's why something in your peripheral vision can make you jump. And the way your brain is wired, when you look at your plan, you get the same fear and anxiety as you can get if you're being stalked by a tiger. Like, we know, cognitively, we know that those are not the same thing, and that a workout 6 weeks from now is not the same thing as a tiger, but there's a deep-seated part of your brain that does not know the difference. And so it's really important to have strategies to recognize what's happening and then put that into its correct place and keep moving forward. And this same strategy is what you will use during a swim. If you get anxious during a swim, if you get anxious during training for a swim, a lot of people will postpone going to an open water swim for training because they're afraid of it, which is exactly why they should be doing more of it. And placing yourself in that setting gives you not just the exposure to the swim on that day or whatever the conditions are, but it also gives you that opportunity to practice these skills of recognizing a fear or recognizing anxiety and reframing what's going on. And we'll talk about some of those specific reframing strategies shortly as well. Anything else that you guys have noticed about planning ahead that gives you concern, Luann?
Yeah, I got one. What I've found is if I plan ahead, then when I'm in the moment and something goes awry, then it doesn't wig me out because I've done this plan and I know it's going to be okay. And
Okay.
so, kind of plan for the unexpected.
Yeah, that's a good point. So sometimes planning for the unexpected things helps you recognize that any single day is not going to be a disaster if it doesn't happen the right way. You're scheduling opportunities not just to gain fitness, but also opportunities to practice mental skills and emotional skills and emotional intelligence and how you talk to yourself about things. So whenever you're training for something new, or Scott, you said that you hadn't done a race in several years and you've signed up for this one, and Luann, you're looking to get back into race after it's been 2 years. It's new and it's different from what you've done before, and so it's a change. And changing things is hard. It's very difficult to just jump right in, say, okay, I'm training for this race in May, and from this day forward on January 1st, I'm going to follow this training plan every day. It's very, very difficult to just switch gears like that. And so what happens is that your brain starts to prepare for what might be inevitable. Well, I'm going to miss a workout. I'm slow. I did really well several years ago, but I'm not that fast anymore. There is a term for this in psychology, and I can't think of what it is right now, but it's sort of an anticipatory allowance for failure. But your mind is making something a failure that's not really a fail. Like a fail is getting eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. The fact that you're out there, the fact that you've decided to do a triathlon, the fact that you've signed up, the fact that you're outside with your running shoes on walking is progress. It's all about process. So starting to think about your goals in terms of what is the process to get there is going to help you get through each step of the training that you're doing, or during the race, each step of the race, each swim stroke from buoy to buoy, getting through the swim, thinking of it as a process rather than right or wrong, or rather than an outcome. I'm only going to be happy with this race if my swim time is less than 20 minutes for an open water mile. Well, if you don't make your 20 minutes and you're looking at your watch, that's going to impact the rest of your race. If you instead think of it as a process, I'm going to do the swim, and my main goal is to keep my shoulders relaxed when I recover, and I'm going to breathe towards whichever way is more clear. That's a process. That's something you can think of right now in the moment. And by focusing that way, you make forward progress no matter what, and it's far less anxiety provoking. So the size of your goal impacts your motivation, and it can also impact your likelihood of succeeding or failing. If you're, and these are sort of like 3 different levels of potential goals for triathlon. If you have never done one before, or if you're just getting back into it after a long time away, you might just want to complete it. You might just want to finish it. And for a lot of people, that is a big goal, just finishing a triathlon, like Luann training for her 70.3. We wanted to finish the triathlon. If you're someone who has gotten an age group podium multiple times and gone to age group nationals, just completing it is not enough of a goal. It doesn't drive you enough. You want to compete. Someone who has podiumed at age group nationals might want to compete at worlds, and they might want to try and podium at world championships. That person is a contender. And whenever you're traveling to something that big with other athletes from around the world, that just raises the stakes of everything. Maybe the same race that you've done at home in your little tiny town with the local lake and the local park, same distance race, but now you're surrounded by other people who are high performers and have traveled from all over the world. It just raises the stakes. So these 3 levels sort of describe the buckets. Someone who just wants to finish it, someone who wants to go from, I've completed several triathlons and I enjoy it and I feel like I can do better. I want to start being competitive, fill in the blank, in my age group. I want to place top 10 in men's 36 to 40 for my second half iron. That's a very concrete goal. That's a competition goal. And then the contender goal, like I said, is going to be fewer people. But if that goal is too lofty, it's going to be intimidating. If that goal doesn't drive you enough, it's not going to help provide motivation for you to continue. Any thoughts about goals? So it says activity at the top. So if you guys don't mind just sharing what your goals are for your upcoming triathlon, or what your goals are for your upcoming season. Does anybody like to say where they fall on that scale? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking to, not put too much pressure on myself. Just want to complete a few, get a few under my belt before I set any time goals.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Amy, I saw you muted your mic there for a second. Did you want to say something? We can't hear you if you're trying to say something. You can also type in the chat if you want. I don't see anything in the chat. Luann?
Yeah, I always just want to complete a race. And so I've often told, the people that are making sure you're safe, just wait for me. I'll be there. And I've never been last, but, probably been close to it. But I've, podium sometimes because back in the day, there weren't very many people doing triathlon like there are today. But my deal now, as I am older and wiser, is I want to finish my race, And so in that 70.3, it's like, did I complete their race? I don't know, but I completed my race and I felt really good about that.
That's great. That's a really nice perspective. I feel a little bit the same as Scott. I took a break from racing for, I don't know, 10 or 12 years. I had been racing for a while, got very involved with coaching, and I started to have some headache issues whenever I would race and exert myself. And I also wasn't very fast compared to a lot of the people that I was coaching. And at the time, I am in my mid to upper 50s now. So when I was in my late 30s and early 40s, I let that thought process of I'm not fast, I'm not fast enough, I'm going to embarrass myself because I'm supposed to be a coach and I'm finishing at the bottom of my age group. I let all of those thoughts really prevent me from racing for over a decade. There were other reasons, but that initial momentum that caused me to back off on racing was something that I had to overcome when I was able to return to racing and really, really enjoy it. And so this will be my third year returning to racing, and I'm enjoying my training so far. Still not doing as much as I would like, but I think it's better quality training than I was doing the last 2 years at this time. Let's see, I see some text in the chat. Oh, Amy, mic and camera not working. Your goal is to show up and be happy to get in and finish. That is awesome. And Amy, could you, since you weren't here when we talked about what people were doing, are you signed up for the Mighty Moraine Man or are you signed up for a different race? Mighty Moraine. And 2.5? What does that mean? 2.5 races? Oh, so the Mighty Moraine Man and then you signed up for 2.5 Ironmans later? Awesome. Okay. This picture on the right here. Sorry, my dog's barking. People tell me they can't hear them, but he's a little distracting.
That's Zach in that picture.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Can you
Your
hear
dog is
Archie?
barking? Your dog never barks.
He's driving me nuts. Buddy, come here. I took him for a long walk before this. All right, yeah, so this is Zach on the right. This is Joella's son. And again, this is the race. This is the actual lake. It's gorgeous. It is foggy. The sun is not out yet. I'm not sure exactly what year this is from, but one morning about 2 years ago, it was foggy for about 2 hours. And when the race finally started, as I turned the first buoy, looked up to sight, and a beam of sunlight hit this ridge in the back, and it just glowed this golden green color. And it made me so happy. And that's all I focused on for the rest of that leg of the swimming in that direction. Was every time I breathed or sighted, I would look at this beautiful sunshine. So that's an example of a process goal during the swim rather than thinking about outside. Sorry, we're really going at. Give me 2 seconds here, okay? All right. Archie's like that. that bad kid in school that had to sit next to the teacher. What do you think, buddy? Okay. Um, yeah, so that's the lake. It's really gorgeous. And it's not always foggy or rainy. It is almost always beautiful after the sun comes all the way up, and just a really nice place to hang out and watch people race. Okay. Let me rearrange my screen here. Okay, so this is something that happens to a lot of people, and it doesn't necessarily happen to everyone. I'm not saying that it's happening to you. However, I think this is common regardless of what level you're on. So I mentioned earlier someone who is training to just complete versus someone who is trying to compete, whether it's within their age group or overall, versus someone who's a contender wanting to podium at a national competition, and go to worlds or whatever level. At all of those levels, each one of those people is usually going to have moments where they doubt what's going on. Imposter syndrome. I don't really think that I'm as good as this timing company said I was. I don't deserve to go to nationals. I don't deserve to go compete at worlds. I don't deserve um, to race on the second day because there's going to be some really fast people there. There's kind of a self-sabotage cycle where as you get closer to that goal, either time-wise or skill-wise, you start to experience some self-doubt. It's like an approach avoidance cycle. You've got on one end of the scale, let's say it's January and you're looking towards March, like, oh, the Mighty Moraine Man is in March. I'm going to start training for that. So you start to do a little bit of training here and there, and it's fun and exciting. And then the months go by, and now it's April, and the Mighty Moraine Man is 4 weeks away. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I haven't done enough yet. And it starts to get scary. And as you get closer, you get into that self-doubt because you haven't reached a perceived goal. So now we go back to this thing about your brain trying to protect you. Well, my goal by April was to be doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm not doing that yet. And it becomes very difficult to continue moving forward. So what we want to do is learn ways to break these cycles, and not just to break it, but recognize when it's happening. And whether this is happening on the scale of like the whole race, like, oh my gosh, I don't even deserve to go to this race. I haven't swum a single yard. I don't deserve to be there. Now, if you're not comfortable in open water, that could be true. But, from a perspective of this is what I should be doing, and if I'm not doing this by such and such a date, I don't deserve to go. Recognizing that type of thought. It can be a much more subtle thought. And one thing that I've noticed for myself is that I tend to have this sort of continuous self-talk in my brain that I'm not always aware of. And I have a calendar that I bought in January, and the name of it is You're Perfect as You Are. And it has illustrations of little animals. They're super cute animals. And every day has a different saying on it. And a lot of these are things that I would look at and, I would have said, I don't want that. I don't need that. I don't need a cute little animal quote telling me that I'm okay as I am today. Like it just doesn't seem like something that I need. But what it's made me realize is that every time I see one of these, and they're different every day, some of them are very targeted to how I'm feeling or thinking. But every time I see it, it interrupts this little loop in my brain that I'm not even aware of. And so having a mantra that helps you, remind you of why you're doing this, remind you of why you deserve to be there. It can help remind you frequently and improve your ability to, break out of the self-sabotage cycle and continue moving forward. Um, that makes sense? Anybody experience anything like that? Do you guys want to see some of the cute little animal cards? Yeah. Okay. Be right back. I'm going to grab some. It's a daily, and so I tear them off and then I stack them up. And every once in a while, I'll trim them and laminate them and give them out. And some of them I actually keep next to my work desk because I really, really like them. Think about if you've ever experienced anything that's on here. You don't have to share, but it might give us some context for the next couple of slides. All right. So these are some of them. Let me turn my blur off. That might help. Okay. So cute little, some kind of wilderness cat. And it says, I can't read it backwards. It's not wrong to feel stressed. It is stressful. So sometimes feeling stressed can be stressful in itself because you don't think you should be feeling stressed, right? So a little reminder like this tells me like, oh, okay, it's okay to be stressed because what I'm doing is stressful and that's all right. This is a nice one. Giving it a try is good enough today. Little unicorn. This is an example of one that I wouldn't have picked out for myself, but it's only one day. April 20th was this one. And just seeing it is like, oh, that's kind of nice. Okay, I'm just trying my best today. This was yesterday's. I really like this one because I like the cute little Loch Ness monster. And bad days do not erase your progress. And I think it's a really important one because if you have a stumbling block, if you miss some training, if you are too tired and don't make it to the pool or whatever, it doesn't erase your progress. If you do that for 3 weeks in a row, you'll backslide. But no one is expected to be perfect 100% of the time. So if you want to see more, I've got lots more. All right, so I kind of talked about these sorts of things. And if you have negative cycle of thoughts, it just sort of takes the joy out of what you're doing. The pleasure of, that seeing that beam of golden light during the swim on that morning. It was really cold that morning. It was cold the day before. And my strategy for the second day, so that the swims are back to back. The first day, it was super, super cold, and I had about 15 minutes before my wave, and I was shivering, and it was just kind of a miserable start. So the next day, I had a strategy. I had planned everything down to the minute. I was getting in at a certain time to warm up, and I would finish my warm up. Warm up area is small, so you can just stand up, and then you're at the start. And I planned it all out. And so I was wet, I was ready to start, and then there's this fog delay. So I'm wet. We're standing around for a while, and the delay, the fog was just, it would go out and would come back in. It ended up being a 2.5 hour fog delay. And my fingers started to turn white. I don't know if you ever had that experience. I went to my car, I took all my wet stuff off, and part of my brain's like, just go home. Like, this is silly. You should just go home. And I was like, no, I want to do the race. I'm here because I get to do this, because this is a sport that I get a lot of joy and satisfaction out of completing it. This is something I can do. Just because it's happening 2 hours later than it was scheduled doesn't mean that I can't do it. So, I just had this little moment where I recognized that thought and I was able to interrupt it. And that was the swim where once we started, as the fog continued to lift and the sun came up, I saw that beam of golden sunlight. And that was such a joyful moment. And when I saw it, I was thinking to myself, how many other people are looking at this too? Or is everyone just trying to survive the swim? So lots of little moments that you can learn to appreciate if you can recognize when the stressful things are getting you out of the mindset that you want to be in. This is just another graphic of this cycle. You train, you get better, you get excited about you getting better. And then as you approach it, you start to doubt, well, is this good enough? I need to train more. And you just sort of keep going through this cycle. Picture on the right is me. This was a different race. I think this was in the fall. And you can see I'm not wearing a tri-suit. I'm wearing a cycling jersey and a Speedo because I got to the race that morning, went to set up my transition, and I didn't have my tri shorts and I didn't have my tri top. I didn't have my tri kit. I hadn't packed it. And I was so upset because my first thought was, I can't race. Like, okay, I'm just going to go home. But I almost always carry a spare swimsuit in my car because one is always wet and it's always nice to have a spare. And I happen to have that cycling jersey for some reason. So I did the race in a Speedo, and it was a sprint. So it wasn't a long time on the bike, but it was another moment where, things didn't go the way that I wanted them to. but because I had been practicing, this was the first summer that I got back into racing. I was so excited just to be able to do that, just to be able to show up on race day. You know, I get to be here. I get to participate. I get to swim. I get to be around all these people who are cheering for me. I get to do this. So not having my tri kit was not that big of a deal. It kind of made it fun. It gave me another thing to focus on and to enjoy, just like that beam of sunlight. Like, okay, now I'm the one in the Speedo. I'm sure I look ridiculous, but I don't care. And people are probably smiling when I go by because there's this crazy woman doing a triathlon in a Speedo. And this kind of goes back to what we talked about before, you know, is how big is your goal? Is it, how motivating is it for you? Is it scary? Is it too scary? Is it not scary enough? So 2 years ago, that first year when I got back into doing triathlons, my goal was literally my goal was just show up, right? It wasn't even about finishing, but I had learned in all those years, I mentioned that, you know, 10, 12 years ago, I felt self-conscious about not being fast enough, not performing well enough. And now that I'm in my mid 50s, I don't care. Nobody cares. Nobody's paying attention to me. I'm paying attention to me. Everybody else is paying attention to themselves. Nobody's really looking at me saying, why is she here? So my goal was just to finish. And then within each one of those races, there were moments that were challenging. And I would say to myself, I get to be here. I chose to be here. I chose to get up this morning. I know 100% that no matter how I get up this hill, I can get up the hill. It might take me longer than I want. I might have to get off my bike and walk, but I know that I can get up there. And once I've done that once, I can do that a second time. The sprint is 2 laps. Is that right? Or is it 1 lap? Anyway, some of the races are multiple laps. Joella can chime in if she's listening. Um, and you know, so for me, I had the initial goal was just to show up. Like that was progress for me because I'd been out of racing for so many years. And then as I had more experiences, my goals got higher and higher. Um, you know, I want to swim, I want to do a better race. I want to feel better. I want to have a better time on the bike. I want to have a better time on my 5K. And that's still where I am now. I just want to keep improving from year to year. These are some examples of different strategies or tools that we can use. And I've talked about process goals a lot already. Does anybody know what sustain talk is? Sustain versus change? Anybody heard that before? Nobody? Change talk is probably self-explanatory. So change talk is saying things and talking about things in a manner of you're aware that what you want to do 4 weeks from now is not where you are today. You know, 4 weeks from now, I want to be a little bit faster in my 5K. 4 weeks from now, I want to have a little bit more swim fitness. 4 weeks from now, I want to feel better on my bike. I I will be stronger. I will be faster. And I know I will be because I'm doing the training consistently. That's change talk. When you're talking about where you're going, what is happening, what is changing in your life. Sustain talk, it doesn't sound like it's a negative thing just by its label, but sustain talk is talking about things as if they're going to stay the same and nothing's going to change. So sustain talk might be something like, well, I'll never be faster than I was when I was 20, so I might as well not try. Or you know, this one's hard for me to think of examples, but when I hear people say things, you know, as coach, I talk to a lot of people, and everybody's got their own way of dealing with things and their own reasons for talking to a coach. And once I became aware of this different sustain versus change, I know who's going to be easy and fun to work with, as opposed to who I'm going to have to do a lot more coaching on mindset because of this sustain versus change. And you know, everybody here, Amy has 2 half Ironmans planned. Scott is doing the initial sprint and he's got an Olympic and he's getting back into it after a couple years out. Luann is talking about she's moved up to a new age group, so she's going to target a new race somewhere. That's all change talk. Those are positive things that move us forward. Process goals. I've talked about that a lot. Process goals are, in order to, so let's say you want to save up $100 to buy a new tennis racket that you've had your eye on. In order to do that, you have to save $2 a week. And then in 1 year, you'll have $104 and you can buy your racket and a candy bar. That's a process. If I'm going to buy my tennis racket 1 year from now, I have to save $2 this week. Any given week, that $2 doesn't seem like very much, but that's the process. This is what I have to do. If you want to reach that goal faster, you have to do more. If you don't care about reaching it immediately, if you've got a longer time frame, you don't have to do as much, but you do have to do it consistently. $1 a week would take you 2 years to save up your $100. So for both the idea of training for a triathlon, but also within the day of the triathlon, what is the process of starting the swim? How do I go from waking up at 4:30 in the morning to walking into that cold water for the first moment? There's a part of my brain that's telling me that that cold water is the worst part of the triathlon. I think about this every day, and I've been taking cold showers as a result. But, I'm aware of it. I know that I've done it before. I know that it's just a discomfort on my skin. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's not good or bad. It's just is what it is. And so for me, the process of managing that part is, I've got a race morning breakfast. I pack the night before. I've practiced, there should be at least one open water swim on a Monday night before the Mighty Moraine Man. So if you're doing the Mighty Moraine Man, please try to go to that open water swim the week before. I'm not sure when she has the first swim scheduled. It's possible, but unlikely there might be two, but there's almost always at least one.
It's May 11th.
May 11th?
Yep.
Okay, great. And then the race is May 16th. So there's one open water swim before the race.
And you can pick up your packets then too.
Oh, good to know. So another reason to show up. Luann, are you coming out for it? You can pick up your race packet.
Yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Okay. And then, of course, during other parts of the race, everyone is going to be a little bit different in the things that they have to focus on. For me, getting up the hills on the biking up hills is hard for me. I'm way more than I would like to. I'm not as strong as I used to be. I don't have the right gearing on my bike. Just me saying that, I don't have the right gearing, that's sustained talk, right? That's me making an excuse, but it's true. I need different gears to make it easier, but I'm limited on what I can put on my bike. But that doesn't stop me. It just means I have to do a different strategy to get out. Self-compassion, this is something that you might hear a lot about, and I want to read you some specific things because it's actually been studied. Where is it? No, don't tell me I can't find it right now. Oh, it is not jumping out at me. Shucks. Okay, well, if I find it, I will mention it the next time. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. So self-compassion. There's a researcher from the University of Texas, Austin. Kristen Neff is her name, Neff, and she's done research on this. And the goal here was to find out who is more motivated, what types of qualities create people with more motivation and better performance. So self-compassion is the opposite of self-criticism. I think we are our own worst critics. A lot of the things, I mentioned this sort of constant loop in my head that I'm not always aware of. There are things that my brain says to me that I would never say to a friend. I would never say some of these things to Luann that are just sort of constantly running through my brain that I have to interrupt somehow. So this little calendar guy, this is a pattern interrupt, and it halts what's going on in my brain, and it just shifts my thinking. And because I've been doing this consistently for a couple years now, I find it kind of really entertaining when I become aware of a self-critical thought. So self-kindness, talk to yourself the way you would talk to a teammate, or the way you would talk to your daughter or your son, or the way you would console a puppy in a scary situation, or the way you talk to a friend. If you wouldn't say to a friend what you're saying to yourself, then stop. Think about what you would say to a friend. The commonality of being a human. So humanity, we're all humans. Pretty much nobody likes freezing cold water. Nobody likes jumping into a cold lake. Nobody likes the way that it feels to bike up a hard hill. A hill that's hard for me may not be hard for Zach, Joella's son, or may not be hard for Scott or Amy or Luann, but everybody's going to have some thing that's hard for you on the same scale that something is hard for me. Everybody goes through the same thing in one way or another. So just because something is feeling hard for you, or because something feels scary on the race day, or because you're feeling anxiety about some part of what you signed up for, that is normal. Everybody goes through that sort of thing. It's just part of being human. The way that your legs feel when you do your first brick, that heavy feeling in your legs, and you say, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to do a triathlon? This feels awful. Everybody feels awful the first time. It's common and it's normal. And that's why we train. That's why we practice those things. Just being exposed to it, even if it never feels any better, just being exposed to doing things like bricks, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes after a run, is going to help you perform better. And then mindfulness is, awareness of what's going on in your thought process and noticing it. Noticing that you're telling yourself that you're slow is different than getting caught up in that story that you're too slow, or that you don't deserve to be there, or that this swim is too crowded. Just being mindful of what the thoughts are allows you to say, okay, I'm thinking that, but that doesn't mean I am that. Make sense? And the reason I chose this picture, this is Bobby McGee. He's a run coach from Boulder. Luann, you've met Bobby. Joella's met Bobby. Scott, do you know who Bobby McGee is?
I do not.
Okay. Bobby McGee is a run coach from South Africa. He has coached runners and triathletes in at least 6 different Olympics. It might be 7 now. Obviously it goes up every 4 years, but he used to be one of the lead coaches for USA Triathlon. And one of the things that Bobby is really, really good with, aside from run coaching, is mindset coaching. He's got a book about it. And if you ever get the chance to go see him, he comes to town every year or 2 or 3 for Joella might bring him out. I think I brought him out once, or, he might be nearby. If you ever get a chance to see him, take something from him, he would be like the one coach nationally, other than Joella and myself, that I would recommend anybody go and spend time with. He's just a master at this. Yeah, examples of process goals. I think I've mentioned all of these. I didn't talk about specifically reframing. Reframing would be where, if you're going up a hill, and I learned this one from Bobby, when you're going up a hill, you can visualize that the hill is a magnet, and your core is the other side of the magnet, and the center of the hill is pulling you towards it, and it's pulling you up the hill. Or telling yourself that you're being drawn up the hill rather than fighting your way up the hill. The run course at Moraine has a lot of, it's not as hilly as the bike course. The run course is mostly around the lake. And so it's just very small hills. But every time I get to a hill, I tell myself, big hill, little steps. And that's what I say to myself the whole time I'm going up. I just make my steps really, really short so that I can keep moving. I say big hill, little steps, big hill, little steps. And they're not big hills. It's just what works for my brain. And it kind of makes me giggle whenever I think that. And sometimes if there's somebody else near me, I'll say it out loud so that they giggle about it as well. All right, so we have a small group here already. We've kind of talked about this. If we had a bigger group, my plan was to break people up so you could talk in groups of 2 or 3. But based on everything that we've talked about, and thank you for coming, by the way. Thank you for staying around for the whole thing. I hope you found some things that were helpful or learned some new things. Is there anything that you have thought of during this talk that maybe you weren't aware of before, like aware of a fear or a doubt? that you didn't realize you had, or learned a new strategy to practice or to manage those? Luann.
I actually was reminded of something, and it's from a friend of mine who does Ultraman and Ironman and whatever. But he happened to be talking to an anthropologist after a race, and got to talking to him, and he was like, "How many races?" He was like, "I just finished my 10th Ironman," and the anthropologist was like, "Well, how many have you entered?" And he was like, "Well, I've entered 10." Thinking this guy was going to give him big praise, and the anthropologist was like, "Well, you're not challenging yourself enough. If you've done 10 and you've finished 10, you need to, finish 80% of what you're doing. Maybe that's the point in which you're challenged enough." But, that just thought comes to my mind as I think about jumping back in the triathlon pond.
Yeah.
Because I need that for my brain for many other reasons. But I kind of like that thought, and it's not necessarily about having the goal. Well, it's about having the goal, but it's about the process it's not about attaining the goal. It's the process to reach the goal. And, if you finish 20%, or if you finish 80%, wow, yay you. So that's what I was reminded of. So this was great, Suzanne. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Luann, that's a good point. I'm actually competing in my first Spartan race on Sunday that my son talked me into, and I'm terrified I'm going to get hurt. But I've done Ironmans, I've done ultra marathons, I've done all kinds of stuff, but doing a Spartan race is scary to me because of the obstacles and getting older and not wanting to get hurt or injured. So, but that's a good point. If I finish 80% of it, that would be a huge win for me. I'm not sure I can, but we'll see. So
that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, a lot of times I like to help triathletes having A, B, and C goals. So like the B goal would be kind of what you expect. Okay, I entered this, I'm going to finish it. Like that's kind of normal. The A goal would be a stretch goal. Okay, I'm going to finish this, but not only am I going to do that, but I'm going to sustain, or I'm going to do my 1 minute walk through every aid station, and I'm going to run my 10-minute mile in between them. Like that's a process goal. Maybe stretching it from what the person has done before, or maybe in the past they've walked to the second half of the Ironman marathon, and so a different strategy, but something that stretches you. And then a C goal would be, okay, well, things may not go perfectly. What's my backup strategy? If I start to slow my pace down, should I just give up? Should I quit the race? Well, no, there's a backup strategy. So having sort of 3 tiers of goals is a nice strategy as well. And speaking of Ironmans, this picture on the right is me, and I can't think of this woman's name right now. She's the woman who has organized the aid station in the transition area at Kona. So the first aid station, when swimmers come out of the water and change, they go past an aid station. And then when everybody's through, we turn around 180 degrees and it becomes the T2 aid station. And she was just wonderful to work with. She's one of these people, like everyone that's on the call. Scott, I've never met you before, but if you're anything like Luann or Joella or this wonderful woman whose name I can't think of that's attracted to these sort of things, someone I felt like I had known for 10 years after 10 hours of working with her. So it looks like, wait, no, I have more. Yeah. So that's all the information that I have. I think the thing that is most important is that your training plan is not what's going to make or break your success in preparation. The support that you provide to yourself is the most important. And if you have someone to train with, or a group or a team or a coach, the support that they provide you. If you're with people and you train with them and you don't feel good afterwards, then they're not supporting you. So yourself, it's most important to be kind to yourself first, and sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. So it's fine to learn from other people. Someone that helps you feel great about a training session. Well, what did they do that made it feel so good? Practice saying those things to yourself. I think that's something that most people can improve on. But, speaking for myself, that's something that I've been working on consistently. And I can say that I'm getting a lot better at it, and it makes it really fun to entertain doing these events. I was going to do the event that Joelle is doing. I don't know why I didn't sign up, but I didn't. Anything else? thoughts, comments?
Suzanne, we'll do a Spartan race together. Let me get through my first one and then I can know what to warn you about.
There you go. You can help me. Oh, I know why I didn't sign up because I'm training for the Moraine triathlon. I'm going to like focus on getting my fitness ready for that. I had a really good training day yesterday.
And you're
So,
trying to get a Guinness Book of World Record tomorrow too. So
yes, hopefully tomorrow afternoon I'll be in the Guinness Book of World Records for helping to train the most number of people in hands-on CPR within 1 hour.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's happening at the Acrisure Stadium, the old Heinz Field for the NFL draft event. So
It's Heinz Field. Come on.
yeah, Heinz Field. And it's actually funny because that's something that I signed up. I read the email about it and I was like, that sounds kind of fun. I think I'll sign up for that. And I signed up for it before I read the details about having to be there at 8:30 in the morning. There's on the news, there's all this don't drive downtown. All these roads are closed. Like a ton of roads are closed for this event. Everybody's like, stay away from downtown. Don't go down there. And I'm like, how am I going to get down there? Uh,
Yeah, there was no traffic today. It was the easiest day I had getting into the city in ages.
that's funny and like odd to me.
Yeah.
And I saw one thing on Instagram today. This is the last thing I'll say. It was an Instagram and it was something about studying, high performers versus non-high performers. And one feature that was consistently present in people who performed consistently well, people who improved, people that had, accomplishments, created things, is that they didn't avoid the small road bumps. Those little things that create anxiety, they did that thing. And so when I signed up for this thing tomorrow, after I finished work today, I was thinking, I don't want to do that tomorrow. I just want to sleep in and just stay at home with the dogs. I'm like, no, it's kind of scary. I'm not sure why, but I'm going to go do it and it's probably be a good time. All right. Well, thank you very much. Next,
Thank you.
you're
Yay,
welcome.
great.
Next week is going to be open water swim. And then the week after that is going to be specific training for the bike and the run. And then the last weekend is going to be like pre-race Q&A. So
All right.
talk to you guys soon.
Thanks.
Bye.